Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite podcast, a podcast covering the entire multiverse of fandom, from movies, comics, TV shows, video games. We got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here as always with Court. Court, what's going on, man?
I'm doing good. I was playing Guardians all day.
Oh, yeah. So good. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. That's going to be our kind of main topic for today. We're going to do the video game thing, as well as talk about the first Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of a mini retrospective, not as deep divey as our Batman Begins one, but we're going to touch upon that and talk about the new Guardians of the Galaxy game published by Square Enix, developed by Eidos Montreal, and I'm super excited to talk about it because I think it surprised a lot of people.
Including both of us.
Yeah, including both of us. But first, the news.
The news. I mean, first news, Boba Fett's... Is he a Soprano now?
Yeah, Sopranos in space.
Sopranos in space. Yeah, so we got the new Book of Boba Fett trailer, just came out. It was a fine trailer. It did its job. Nothing crazy. There was no big reveals for this one.
I was whelmed.
Right, I was whelmed. It was very, very streamlined, very... I feel like it was a good way just to set him on the path that we kind of knew where he was going. But my only fear is there going to be any real draw for this show outside of having Boba Fett back? What's the real draw? Because we already got that in The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious about how this is going to go across a whole series.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because let's be honest, Boba Fett wasn't exactly the most compelling character in the original trilogy. He was just basically got popular off his armor and his look.
Right.
And Jango Fett didn't do much to instill anything else, really, in Attack of the Clones.
It's Mace Windu's fault.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm curious. I'm excited to see it.
Of course.
It's the first new Star Wars thing we're getting since The Mandalorian ended, besides Bad Batch and Visions, but those are both animated properties. Right. This is the first live-action Star Wars thing we've gotten since the end of Mandalorian Season 2, and that ended on such an incredibly high note.
Oh my god, yeah. I just watched that the other day. I went back and I watched that scene, and it's every time it gives me the same reaction every time. And that's kind of that mystery and wonder that's at the core of Star Wars. I mean, ever since A New Hope. I mean, just Luke looking out at the twin suns set on that hero's journey. You kind of feel that across, no matter where you are in the franchise, you can always find it at some place. And I just don't know if I found that from this trailer, but we'll see. I mean, it's going to be fun to pick back up. Like I said, we already did kind of get that same story in The Mandalorian, if this was a precursor to that. But I mean, we're getting Ming-Na Wen back as Fennec Shand. Mm-hmm. We're getting some cool characters back. I mean, we're seeing all of Jabba's boys come back, all of his old crew kind of come back. So we'll see where that kind of takes Jabba. And I know we had this conversation while we're here. I mean, Star Wars is kind of in a limbo period right now. There's no Mandalorian. I mean, even if there was Mandalorian, Grogu's not with him anymore. So this is a little bit of an interesting time. And I mean, the big thing for me is there's no definitive Jedi right now. There's no show that has like a Jedi, whether it be a new one or an old one. I'm kind of a big believer that we should get a completely new Jedi. Even if you start something small on Disney Plus, you rebuild the order. I just want something new in the present day of Star Wars. I think that's the best opportunity for them to kind of gain new fans and kind of grow from there.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit a couple days ago about how everything that's kind of on the slate for Star Wars is talking about old characters and characters that are already established. You're talking about Boba Fett, you're talking about Ahsoka Tano, you're talking about Obi-Wan. Like, these are all characters that we've kind of seen, aside from Ahsoka, I guess, we've kind of seen how their arc goes. I guess you can count Boba Fett as being an exception, but we also saw his arc play out and then they just brought him back.
Right.
So, like, we know, regardless of how good the Obi-Wan show is going to be, and I expect it to be very good.
Oh, yeah.
We know how Obi-Wan's story ends.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. No, I definitely agree. Like I said, I just got this feeling. I know it's kind of contradictory, but playing Jedi Fallen Order, I kind of got that feeling of something new. It's just something it's a character I'd never seen before, even though it was in between episodes. I mean, right after episode 3, kind of leading into episode 4. It felt good just to see a new Jedi that we haven't seen before. And like I told you too, they have like this big thing. It's guys and girls and ladies and beings across the entire universe with laser swords, and they're fighting. Like,
and I think Visions leans into that.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's almost like the religion of the Jedi, which they lean into. It necessarily doesn't even need to be that, because it really wasn't that in the original trilogy. It was more about Luke's hero's journey, and his confrontation with his father, and then the prequel trilogy kind of leaned into that a little bit more, but it was also the fall of them, and then the new trilogy was kind of to tie loose ends and kind of be that nostalgia piece. So we really haven't seen like a new Jedi Order. So the only thing that can resolve that, which I would be okay with going into the past, is the Old Republic, because it would make sense because it's so far in the past where it doesn't have to lean on anything else.
Yeah, and I feel like doing an Old Republic thing would get away from the monk thing and like the politics, which is like the least interesting part about the Jedi.
Because it was like a straight up Sith versus Jedi war that was going on at the time. So if you were able to pull that off, maybe follow some certain Jedi back in the day. I mean, you have a lot of Sith that you can go off of too. I think that would be the best. Or like I said, start fresh, start new, get a new Jedi that we've never heard about, and have that person kind of just be the new fresh face for everybody to kind of follow. Yeah,
I totally agree. So we got another trailer.
Oh yeah, yes we did, and I'm confused. I'm very confused. So Morbius, this movie's still coming out after pretty extensive delays, because this movie was supposed to come out the beginning of this year, I believe, or maybe even last year. Yeah, I think this movie was supposed to come out. So it's been benched for a little bit, and the hype's back. So when people looked at the Sony website and they didn't see the No Way Home trailer and they saw Morbius, I bet they were super excited about that. So yeah, Jared Leto's playing Michael Morbius. I mean, a pretty classic Spider-Man villain, especially if you're a fan of the 90s Spider-Man cartoon.
Michael Morbius, who we haven't seen in live action since the end of Blade 2.
Oh yeah, right. That's correct.
He was on a roof.
Yeah, he was. And then just nothing came of that.
That was the end of that.
Yeah.
Because Blade 3 was no good, and Wesley Snipes lost his mind.
Yeah, he did. But you saw Wesley Snipes is in a new movie with Kevin Hart. It's coming out on Netflix.
That's fun.
Yeah, but it's like a serious kind of movie for Kevin Hart.
Oh.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, getting back to Morbius, I mean, just off the Blade topic, I mean, Mahershala Ali's Blade, and then getting into this trailer, so I guess spoilers, I guess this kind of contains some spoilers. If you want to stay fresh, maybe skip ahead. It'll be time-coded, but you kind of get the sense, whose universe is this in?
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, because I think that was honestly kind of smart how they did it, because now it leaves you questioning, and now people are going to go see the movie to kind of get their answers. And I mean, Venom, the post-credit scene of Venom, I mean, in our theater, we talked about it in the Venom review, people were yelling at the screen in our theater because it was the first time that they'd done something. I mean, any studio's done anything like that, because this is pre the Flash movie with Ezra Miller, of you crossing universes. Like, it's never been done before. So now different properties are going to happen. I mean, we got kind of reports for Doctor Strange 2, but I don't want to get into that. But I mean, for the Spider-Man movie that's coming out, we already have, even if we don't get Tobey and Andrew, we're getting Alfred Molina, and we're going to get Willem Dafoe back as their villain. So this Morbius, we see Michael Keaton's Vulture in there, but we also see the Raimi suit, but we also see Black Cat, which is presumably from the Amazing Spider-Man movies. So What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? Do you think it's kind of a result of what Doctor Strange did? Because I have a feeling that's probably because all these worlds might be straight up colliding on each other. That could be happening.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be all of this stuff just retroactively happening in Tom Holland's kind of universe now. You know what I mean? Where like Morbius is like Venom crosses over, but like Morbius is the first one that kind of manifests himself in this new universe.
Right.
Maybe?
Or Morbius could just take place in that universe, in the Venom universe, because he even says like it's kind of apparent that Venom's in that universe.
Well, they talk about the incident in San Francisco,
right,
which is an obvious solution to Venom.
Right. So that's kind of what I'm feeling right now, that it is just in the Venomverse, and then whatever Doctor Strange did, I think that they want to make sure everything gets crossed into one. And then we'll see how that kind of plays out, because I've been hearing things that for the Spider-Man movie, it could be Tom, like a popular theory I saw, it could be Tom Spider-Man living out like the Raimi-verse and then the Amazing Spider-Man universe is like collapsing in on itself. So he's like living out kind of scenarios that their lives would have. That's why he sees them. I don't think that's the case. I just think they're just going to find a way into the main Marvel universe.
Yeah, it's going to be into the Spider-Verse.
Right. Right. I mean, after the success of that movie and then Tom Holland being successful and then people loving nostalgia, it's just the perfect recipe for success. So
yeah, and it's something that people had been talking about for, I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Ever.
Right.
Because
a lot of people right, because a lot of people's first superhero was Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So it's just a stroke of genius to bring him back to any capacity, and maybe more than we thought so, because I mean, we can talk about the speculation of this Spider-Man trailer too while we're here. I think that they are in the movie for a solid amount now that because this movie's coming out in 44 days. It's 44 days. I've never seen any type of big Hollywood produced movie that doesn't have a second trailer by this time. One trailer that really didn't show us anything outside of Alfred Molina and the Pumpkin Bomb, which are two, I mean, massive reveals, but we knew at least Alfred Molina was going to be in the movie. So we really haven't seen anything we don't even have a poster for this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of crazy because a lot of theaters, they have posters for their movies months and months in advance to get ready, to get people excited for your like average moviegoer that would be seeing something else.
When we went to see, I forget the first one we went to see, I think Suicide Squad, they already had the Eternals poster.
Oh yeah, they did, yeah. And that just came from, because usually what happens is the first trailer comes out and then the first poster comes out. But I've been hearing that the reasoning is because Sony and Marvel are having disputes about if they want to show Andrew and Toby in the new trailer or if they want to save it for the movie. I am full for saving it for the movie.
Me too.
I mean, now we're 44 days away. We can wait until the movie comes out to get it.
Yeah.
So maybe trailer next week. That's probably going to change around all of our plans.
Yeah.
That's the same thing happened last time.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It messed us up.
Yeah, but for Morbius, I like the look. The look looks really cool. I mean, Jared Leto is also he's a great actor. That's undeniable. So, yeah, it just feels a lot like Venom, but it has me a little bit more optimistic than Venom. And then with this whole multiverse thing, it could be interesting.
Good looking vampire.
Right. I mean, what vampire isn't?
I mean...
Yeah, because you were going to say Edward Cullen from Twilight, and then you thought it was Robert Pattinson, so...
Yeah, no, I'm intrigued by it. I'm not going to say I'm excited for it, but I'm intrigued.
Mm-hmm. You said you caught my attention, but now you have my curiosity.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I said that line backwards. Sorry, Leo.
Yeah, I think you did too. Well, that's fine. What else?
What else do we got?
Oh, Nolan.
Yeah, my guy. So, his next film, Oppenheimer, coming off the tails of Tenet. Are you a Tenet fan?
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
I usually like things a lot more than other people do. So it's just the rewatchability of Tenet, I think, is extremely high because I feel like you're always finding something when you rewatch that movie. But regardless, that's Christopher Nolan's last movie. I want to say it was positively mixed. It's not really Eternals mix, which we'll get into in a little bit, but it was positively mixed. Like, there were people that said either they didn't understand it or it was a little bit too pretentious for them. I think that's the whole point, is that we're not really supposed to understand some of those concepts, and that's just how human life goes. So he's back.
He does this.
Yeah, he does this. This is what he does.
He either does historical epic or he does confusing things.
Confusing time epic.
Confusing time thing.
Yeah. So we are on to
he did Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Then he did Tenet. Now
Perfect.
He's doing Oppenheimer.
Yeah, so he's back to
historical epic.
Right. So Oppenheimer following, the creation of the first atomic bomb. So we have some new casting announcements. We got Robert Downey Jr.
RDJ.
He's back. He's back and better than ever. And he's going to be in this. So he's going to join Emily Blunt and boy, Cillian Murphy. Man, I love Cillian Murphy. And also Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Matt Damon said, I don't have to be the main character in any of these movies. Just let me be the side character and I'll help out.
Yeah, this has suddenly become a very good cast.
Yeah.
Which I'm not surprised.
Right.
I mean, Nolan always casts well.
Right. I'm just glad that Cillian Murphy finally gets to star in one of his movies. I mean, especially off the success of Peaky Blinders 2. Mm-hmm. And
it's really cool that he's the lead in this movie with other, like, mega stars.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Robert Downey Jr., obviously,
right.
At the height... maybe not the height of his
powers.
He was
the Superman. He was the superhero in Hollywood.
I'd say the height of his powers was probably, like, 2013, 14-ish.
Yeah.
Like, had a couple Iron Mans, had a couple Avengers, had Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
That's probably, like, Peak Robert Downey Jr. The Judge. Yeah. I like The Judge.
Yeah, not a bad movie. Yeah. Not at all.
You have Matt Damon, who, I mean, has been A-list for, like, 20 years at this
since
point.
He was a kid, yeah. So yeah, this cast is looking really good. I mean, and then the big thing about this is his first film without Warner Brothers. That's the biggest part about this. He's with Universal now, I believe.
Yep.
As Universal now. So we'll see how this goes. I mean, you're not denying any of his talent. We're going to see if Hans Zimmer comes back to score it or if he just brings back Ludwig Göransson. I can't remember who he's using. I'm almost certain that Hoyt van Hoytema is coming back, who shot pretty much most of his movies as well. So we'll see what the production's gonna look like for this. So regardless, I don't care if it's Universal, A24, Warner Brothers, Disney. As long as you add Christopher Nolan, you're gonna get some success. So.
And is he gonna get his own nuke for this?
Rob, don't do it. Yeah, everything's practical, so he's gonna have to practically get a nuke.
Yeah. Is Robert Downey Jr. going to be Tony Stark in this movie, developing a nuke?
Absolutely hilarious. They just cut in the clip of him from the first Avengers movie flying the nuke
out. So speaking of Eternals, we talked about it a little bit a couple minutes ago. Early reviews are not great.
Not great.
Not great, Bob.
Yeah, little suspicious.
Yeah.
It's a little weird. Because I remember when the premiere happened, and obviously you get that premiere hype. There's people that get invited to see this movie, and I know there was a bunch of YouTubers that I watched that this was like their first premiere that they had ever went to, and it's a big deal. So you kind of get that hype and feeling, and you're seeing all the characters and all these actors, all the big producers. I mean, Kevin Feige himself is at every premiere. So it's a little interesting that this one got 59%. I mean, visually, this movie just looks incredible. It
can't be worse than Thor: The Dark World.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, that's why I feel like we've always said that even from the beginning. I know we talked the Rotten Tomatoes score, but you always have to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, my number one movie that I keep going back to is Interstellar, sitting at a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. There's no way that movie has a 71%. I feel like when people don't understand stuff for the first time, they have like that visceral reaction. Well, this is completely bad, which is not that simple.
Especially a movie that's part of such a massive kind of something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we've never seen anything like it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And this isn't a full defense. Like, the movie could be bad. Yeah, it could be bad. It very well could be.
Tune in next week.
Yeah,
we'll tell you.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna review Eternals next week, and I've been looking forward to this movie. I mean, I even said if Spider-Man No Way Home didn't exist, this would have been easily probably my most anticipated movie of the year with Dune. It would have been this and that, just because of the scope of it. And actually, I watched the songs My Brothers Taught Me by Chloe Zhao, just another film. And I mean, it's just this tremendous talent that she kind of brings. And I remember they made it apparent on all the behind the scenes. We're gonna make most of our sets. I'm sorry, guys. Richard Madden can't fly, so if you guys were upset about that, I mean, but still, on a serious note, they built most of those sets. She was using her filmmaking style, which I really love. It's very Terrence Malick-esque, and it's very in moment, moving the character to follow these characters to invoke more of that real world reaction. So, I mean, I kind of like that, especially if we're kind of going into a history of the Marvel Universe, essentially what this movie is. I'm all for showing like that real world aspect of it too.
Yeah, this having such kind of been mixed to poorly received so far has me thinking that it probably doesn't have a crazy action set piece that a lot of people are accustomed to seeing, and B, it's doing a lot of legwork.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is one of my concerns, and has been one of my concerns about this movie, that it's introducing a history, essentially, of the Marvel Universe. It's introducing double-digit new characters, which is... in a film is difficult to do.
Right. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy, which we'll get into, it also had that tall task. And it's funny, the reason why...
Guardians also didn't introduce nearly as many main characters.
No. And the reason why I also wanted to talk about Guardians went on top of the game, because our original plan was just to talk about the game, but I brought it up as kind of a prelude to the Eternals of, this is the most radically different thing they've brought to the big screen since Guardians of the Galaxy, because Guardians of the Galaxy, there was nothing that was too outlandish after that. Because I remember the saying kind of went, there's nothing that they can't do now. They can do whatever. And I mean, we'll get into it when we talk about the game. I feel like it's the best balance of the crazy conceptual nature of Loki mixed with the heroic nature of just the regular Avengers level movie. So just mixing those two worlds on top of having an Academy Award winning director with you, I feel like I don't think it's a 60. We could be wrong, but I want to see this movie, and I encourage everybody else to go see this movie and formulate your own opinion. Don't just look at that Rotten Tomatoes score and let that dictate, because there's been a lot of review bombing, which has been reported. Obviously, we don't know definitively, but...
I mean, the formula, if there was a formula I could outline for this movie not being great, it's too bloated.
Yeah. The plot might be too convoluted and too crazy for even in, I think this is what, the third longest Marvel movie or the second longest one, something like that. For, I think it's around like 240. Even if you can't, because like you said, you're fitting 10 characters and you can definitely tell she wanted to take time with all the characters she put, or that they put into the movie as well.
Yeah,
so
it could be too bloated. It could be character overload. You know, it could be these things. And it could be a drag. It could be boring.
Right.
Which, I mean, nobody wants. I mean, people even complain that Dune was boring.
Yeah, that's the next thing I wanted to talk about right before we get into Guardians is that was my biggest gripe with some of the Dune reviews was I feel like we're so kind of conditioned into we need an action set piece ever so often in a film where there's some films are just not about straight action. Like essentially Dune was like, it was kind of like a Messiah movie mixed with a political thriller. That's kind of what Dune was. And it kind of is disappointing sometimes to kind of feel like, and don't get me wrong, the majority of people go to the movies just to have a good time. So, and I mean, Marvel movies do that exceptionally well. They make you have a good time. That's why, like, when Martin Scorsese said his things a couple of years ago, people immediately had a bad reaction, but they didn't listen to his whole quote. His quote was, they are experiences at the movie theater that's akin to going to, like, a theme park. It's like you're on a ride the whole time but the whole thing was, like, we go to see those movies, but we won't go see smaller budget movies that don't have action in it just for that reason.
And, I mean, if this Eternals thing is, being reviewed the way it is, it kind of proves his point.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this is going to be a roller coaster. I think it's going to be kind of a slow burn.
Yeah, it's good. You can kind of feel the conceptual nature of it. There's a lot of biblical references in this, too. I mean, it feels like there's another added layer to this that Loki did well, but we kind of understood what Loki was because it was a series, too.
And it was Loki.
Yeah, it was Loki, too. So you already fell in love with that character. We haven't fallen in love with these characters enough.
We haven't even met these characters.
Yeah, we haven't met them yet.
We literally have to meet them and fall in love with them in the film, which, to be fair, Shang-Chi totally worked.
Yeah, immediately he was likable. He was somebody that was fun, funny, but also had the serious nature to him, which was really cool. It was like, he had an interesting arc. He kind of had that Iron Man arc of, he's not 100% a good person. He needed to find that because he was trained in a way to be an assassin. Tony was kind of bred in a way to be a warmonger, but they had to teach themselves that that's not what the hero game is about. It's about saving the maximum amount of people that you can.
Right. So I don't know. We'll see. This is coming out this week. I'm still looking forward to it regardless.
100%.
So,
yeah.
All right. Let's talk some Guardians of the Galaxy.
Which one? Let's talk about the game.
You want to talk about the game first?
Yeah, let's talk about the game.
Okay.
Yeah, so just review real quick. So we're talking a little bit of background. I mean, Square Enix, so let's get the elephant, the Avengers Square Enix game elephant out of the way. That game, disappointment is the number one thing we could say about that game.
I held on to it because it kind of became a fun game for me to pick up and play just when I had nothing else to do. Like, let me just bang out a couple hours with Avengers, a couple new characters. I would always come back for the the new characters and the new kind of campaign content because, to its credit, that stuff is probably the highlight of that game.
Yeah, it's the actual story.
The campaign is pretty good. Characters are pretty good. Kamal Khan in particular is excellent characterization of that character. I think the original cast is not quite as good.
No. And you know why I feel like that is? It's because we kind of already had these preconceived notions of what all the Avengers are. And I'm going to talk about that for the Guardians game because it's kind of the reverse for the Guardians game. Yep. So we've already known who all five of the Avengers were before this. We've had the movies. You've had all these other forms of media with them. So once you get to the game, they kind of just feel like statues of all of them. Like they don't feel any different. Kamal is the only one, and Bruce pretty to an good extent.
Bruce, I was going to say Bruce. Pretty good voice cast, too.
Oh, yeah. That's, big win about that.
You have Nolan North, who played Iron Man in the Avengers. He is most notably known for Nathan Drake. And that was kind of one of my gripes about it, is because I played the Uncharted games, and there's really nothing that distinguishes his Tony Stark from Nathan Drake.
It sounds so similar, It really does.
But you talked about Bruce. Bruce is actually probably, of the original group, not counting the DLC characters, Bruce is probably my favorite character, and he's voiced by Troy Baker, who is most notable for his role as Joel in The Last of Us. And there's a lot of Joel Ellie comps.
Yeah, for right
between Bruce and Kamala,
because they spent a lot, especially early on in the game. They spent a lot of time together in the early part of the game because she's the first one. She's the first one that finds Bruce to kind of reform the Avengers in this game as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of Joel Ellie vibes that I really dug from that. But I think the DLC characters are always great. Kate Bishop, Clint Barton, and most notably Black Panther, who's voiced by I forget his name off the top of my head, but he voices Kratos in the new God of Wars.
Yeah, he did an amazing job.
He even got voice coaching from the the Black Panther
movie,
who did the Black Panther, kind of voice coached the Black Panther cast from the movie.
Right.
He got him to direct, and then who's the guy who wrote the last Black Panther run in the comics?
Oh, Ta-Nehisi Coates.
He did the scenario.
Oh, wow.
War for
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Ta-Nehisi Coates also wrote one of the newer Captain America runs. So, Ta-Nehisi Coates, if you don't know, he's a really amazing writer. He's actually like a political writer. That's his main thing. And that's why I think they brought him in for Black Panther originally. And then that's where we get that Black Panther film from. We get a lot of the inspiration from there. But then the Captain America run, it makes sense why they had him write that at the time as well. But
we're not here to talk about Avengers.
Yeah, that's right.
But needless to say, so Square Enix, not a great start, even though it's kind of the blame is misplaced at them because they were just the publisher.
Right.
So here we are again, Square Enix publishing Guardians of the Galaxy, developed by Eidos Montreal, who most notably developed the last Tomb Raider games, the good ones, really good ones for next gen, and the Deus Ex games, which are also really good. And I was very apprehensive about this game when I first saw it.
And I think I'm pretty sure they announced this game, or they announced the idea for this game, I'm pretty sure pretty close to when the first Guardians movie came out. They kind of had the idea, because as soon as a success starts for something, immediately it goes, how can we capitalize? And I mean, a game is a perfect way to capitalize, but it's kind of like really high timing and really good timing. I'm kind of glad that game didn't come out, because it would have immediately been the direct references to the movie, which, I mean, this game definitely has. There's definitely, and I mean, that's just because the popularity of the movie kind of dictated the comics too. It's one of those instances where the characters aren't so popular. So now if you look at a comic run, it's probably going to be a lot more similar to the movies, right? So, like you said, I was apprehensive. It wasn't even the kind of that scared nature. It was more of, why would I care because of how not good that Avengers game is. It wasn't good. I didn't love it. It was that,
and even the trailers and stuff weren't very inspiring.
Right.
When they first showed off the gameplay, I was like, okay. I wasn't even that mad about the Star-Lord thing. I was like, oh, that's fine that you don't control the other characters, but just the combat just looked kind of flat and uninspiring. And boy, howdy, was I wrong about this game from everything.
So I kind of want you to take more of like the actual gameplay, because you're the gamer of us too, and I'll kind of take more of like the inspirations, because there's a lot of comic things that happen in here that are amazing, and that's what I want to talk about when we talk about the movie as well. Is that what this does is, the movies, I mean, the biggest change they made is just Star-Lord's lineage from being Jason of Spartax to Ego. And I want to talk about that because that's a big part of this game too. So I mean, I think I told you, because I started it and got pretty far into it before you had started it. And I told you, man, whatever cosmic thing from the Marvel Universe you can think of, they somehow threw into this game. It's a thrill ride from the very beginning. The characters are so well done. The dialogue is mind-boggling when you talk about what goes into a game and doing it dialogue for a video game. It's hours and hours and hours and hours. This feels more... I feel like I've played longer games that had a fraction of the dialogue that this game had.
I think I told you when I first started it, I said you walk through an entire section of this game and nobody shuts up.
Yeah, right. There's no dull moments. I mean, Fallen Order is kind of I won't hold it against Fallen Order because it was a singular person, but that just helps this. It's the fact that it's a team that you're using. Even though Star-Lord's the character that you're controlling the whole time, it's the fact that you're with your team the whole game. That's what makes it really interesting.
And nobody shuts up.
No.
And it's all unique dialogue. You never hear lines repeated twice. It's insane.
Yeah,
even in the down moments when you're on the Milano and it's just conversations are happening while you're walking around the ship.
Yeah.
And you're just like, man, I don't want to go to the next mission. I want to hear like more of these conversations happening.
Without spoilers, there's the section of the game that I just got to is where you're locked in your rooms and you need to escape, and they're singing "Don't Worry, Be Happy" to try to get a character to kind of listen to you to find out where they can cut a cord to free everybody. And it's the absurdity of the Marvel movie Guardians of the Galaxy presented in this. It's absolutely insane that that's something that just immediately works and makes sense for this whole game.
Yeah, and kind of diving into the gameplay a little bit, to me, it's equal parts, probably a little bit of Jedi Fallen Order with the kind of platforming that you're doing. It's equal parts Mass Effect with the kind of dialogue trees.
And kind of the space, too. The space element of it as well.
And even the gunplay is very Mass Effect. And then just the combat mechanics invoke to me Final Fantasy VII remake, obviously. When it comes to kind of slowing time down, giving your other Guardians commands to, you command Groot to like wrap up a bunch of enemies and you can gun them down, or wrap up a bunch of enemies and have Rocket throw a bomb.
Right.
You're in control of the scenario the entire time.
That rocket bomb saved my life so many times in that game.
But I mean, even coming down to the stagger bar for more powerful enemies is ripped directly from Final Fantasy VII. So it felt to me that Square Enix had kind of more hands on this game than they did the Avengers game.
And it's good because they definitely heard the cries of the Avengers game not being successful.
And it's embarrassing.
Issues. It is.
For kind of a big company that came off a monster year last year with the relaunch of the Final Fantasy VII IP. Like, Square Enix was riding high. Like, that game got Game of the Year nominations. It got it swept pretty much musical categories across the board, and then the Avengers came out and they were like, oh man, like Square Enix sucks again. And they're like, hey, hold on. So, I mean, going back to the dialogue stuff, that was one of my favorite parts of Final Fantasy VII, was these characters felt so real. Yeah,
they did. And what's funny is I'll never forget the first moment, because like you said, you played this game, you finished it, I still got a little bit to go. And there was a moment where, obviously, we all know kind of how Rocket Raccoon is. He's very brass, he's very quippy, and very, aggressive in his dialogue. And it's just, we get a lot of that from Bradley Cooper, thanks to him. So we get to this point in the game, and I'm pretty sure it's a high intensity moment, and then immediately Rocket starts talking about his girl that he lost while he was being tortured on Half-World, and I was like, why am I emotional right now? Like, why is this making...
It has some really touching moments.
And I think the biggest one, and it's honestly something that I'm glad they tackled too, and it was like an issue, and it's funny because it's off camera, I always campaign for us to cover, and we will eventually in the future, Tom King's run on Mr. Miracle. It's like it's kind of like a B to C-list DC hero from like the Jack Kirby New Gods era, and a big part about it is kind of depression and your suicidal thoughts. That's like the big core of the movie, because Tom King's he's a veteran as well. So Gamora in this game, it's very apparent that she has PTSD from what she did, and so Mantis shows up, and Mantis says, "Do you still have your suicidal urges?" I'm like, isn't this a video game that we're running around the galaxy?
I forgot about that moment. And there's a moment that I'm not going to spoil for you because you haven't finished it, but in relation to Gamora, and she kind of unloads at one point of like her total kind of past, and I was just like, whoa. Yeah. I was just, like I said, when I say that this game kind of had more markers of what Square Enix can do when they're at their best, this game has it. Like I said, with the dialogue, and you don't know how hard that is to make these conversations sound like they're legitimate back and forth when none of these voice actors are together. They're recording their dialogue, often isolated. They can hear the dialogue in their headphones, and that's pretty much all they're going off of.
It was an amazing job. You pointed out that this is a pretty lower kind of level cast. Like, this isn't like a larger or a big name voice cast.
The voice cast is pretty unknown. I didn't recognize really any of the names that were on it.
Yeah, but they all of them knocked it out of the park. I mean, I'm on a lot of the Mantis dialogue now, and it's so in this, and then this is getting back to more like otherworldly, like comic things. Like, Mantis is really, she's kind of living her life in multiple dimensions and multiple timelines at once. So like, a lot of her dialogue is like, we're going to do this, or did we just do this, or are we doing it right now? And then it's a lot of great teases for further parts in the game. She's just lived because I'm on one of the levels where Mantis is kind of using Drax as a conduit to kind of run around, and just from the movie if you guys need a reference point. But it's just funny because Mantis is just like, I think Rocket says, "How many times do we die here? 50?" And she's just like, "Yeah, 50." And then it just pauses, and then it's just like, "Oh, 50,000. That's what I meant." It's like 50. So like you kind of see her all these timelines, and it's difficult to kind of read dialogue like that because it's contradictory to like how our brains work, of like how we flow sentences. Of she's like going back, she's just like, or it happened, or it's gonna happen.
Yeah, she's like, oh, this part's coming up.
Yeah, yeah. And then like what I liked is it's easy to do that, but it's the past part of like, oh, we're about to do the thing that we just did, and she's just like, oh yeah. And they were like, why is it so difficult for you? She's like, I'm living like thousands of lifetimes at once, all in the present when it's past, present, and future. So
yeah, so I kind of want to dive into the characterizations, particularly in contrast to the films.
Yeah. Because,
man, across the board, particularly...
Do we have the same character that I was so much happier with?
Drax?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not even the character itself, because... Just get this out of the way. Dave Bautista's doing an amazing job as Drax. And really revitalized his career and made him like a straight up household name. Like everybody knows who Dave Bautista is now. But it was my biggest gripe with the Guardians movies. And it's funny because I was reading a little bit of Annihilation, and just a little background. Annihilation is basically Annihilation and Civil War, the comics were happening at the same time. And it's funny because Civil War was happening and it felt like the end of the world because all the heroes were at odds with each other. And then I'm pretty sure Richard Rider gets thrown to Earth, and he says, "Why you guys are fighting with yourselves? The entire universe is being eaten alive, and you guys are fighting about rights. Like you guys are fighting about if we need to register to be superheroes or not." And like I've seen billions upon billions of beings die this whole time, and like that Drax the Destroyer is what we get in this game. Like it's the destroyer part that we don't really see in the movies that we see in this game. That's my biggest, like probably one of my favorite parts about this game.
Yeah. Drax is in this game. It's funny because he invokes a lot of the Bautista performance in terms of like his dialogue, but in terms of his actions, you can see how this guy killed Thanos.
Yeah. He's extremely. Just the strength is. It's not even the strength itself. It's like every character he's going hand to hand with. I mean, there's the Blood Brothers in this game, which it makes it apparent that they're extremely formidable and extremely dangerous. And he still. It's the point he pulls the Omni-Man or the Batman vs Superman, where Batman's punching him and then the Kryptonite's wearing off, so he just is hitting him over and over. But it's still, you can feel it. I mean, there's this kind of, so it's not really a spoiler too much, but you kind of get this background that it's believed that Drax killed Thanos. And I mean, that line right there just tells you how strong he is if he was able to kill the Mad Titan. I mean, No Stone's comic Thanos is still one of the most dangerous beings there's been. So I'm just glad that they gave him this upgrade, because in the films, it just honestly feels like he's like Captain America strong. That's what it feels like. He doesn't feel
he's just like this kind of unhinged kind of lunatic.
Yeah.
Like in battle, like this Drax is very tactical.
Yeah, he is, which makes more sense of how his race works too. Of they're very traditional, very formal, and very kind of ritualistic. And I'm like I said, I'm so glad that this is the Drax that we got. We got a lot more comic feeling version of Drax, and I mean we get the same thing for Star-Lord. I mean, so let's just go to the main character. So
yeah, the protagonist, he is the point of view character.
Yes,
as much as this is an ensemble movie, this is, I mean, you start the game in Star-Lord's bedroom when he's a kid, and his mom walks in. So Star-Lord is very much the point of view character.
Yeah, just like the movies too. Star-Lord, as much as these other Guardians get a lot of screen time and a lot of narrative focus through them, I mean the main narrative, I mean even in Guardians 2, it is the main narrative focus to be a Star-Lord story. So it's cool to see what we got, and it's just the emotion you get from him just being that small town farm kid that got abducted and just got thrown into this life that he never, but him adopting that and kind of taking his own style too. And I like this one too because Kid Peter has the mullet, he has his room like the way he wants in his basement. He's playing like metal. The soundtrack also on this game, absolutely amazing.
I can't believe that they got clearances for all this music.
Yeah, it felt like the soundtrack that James Gunn would put together. Like if they were to switch this soundtrack in James Gunn's, I wouldn't tell the difference. If they used the songs at the right moment, it feels exactly what James Gunn would do.
Yeah, but man, great performance by the Star-Lord voice actor. There's a lot of really touching moments. There's a lot of tragedy in his backstory.
There is.
That kind of unfurls throughout the game. The methodology of him being brought into space in the greater galaxy is different from the movies. The movies, he's taken by the Ravagers. In this, he's taken by the Chitauri as a prisoner, and that's where he meets Yondu.
And the Chitauri are more not anybody's army in this. They're an actual race of people that are a race of beings that actually are kind of warmongers instead of just being like this army that Thanos can use to his disposal, which could be some background from the movies. We just haven't gotten that, but it's apparent in this one that that's the case.
So the game very quickly justifies Star-Lord being the main point of view character, especially as you develop later on. Nikki Gold is in this, Carell is in this, more newer characters to the Guardians comics, but very well implemented. I mean, do you want to talk about some of the the cosmic stuff that happens in this?
Just absolutely nuts. So it's not even in the actual storyline cosmic thing that happened, but like I said, that's where I got that feeling, the same feeling I got from Loki episode 6, like the conceptual nature, because I keep going back to Annihilation specifically for a comic reference. I mean, the 2012 or 2013 Guardians run was the inspiration for the movie too, because it was the specific team that we got, which happens a lot when a new movie's coming out, like Shang-Chi got a new run right before the movie came out, for example. But they felt so much more kind of in tune with what was happening in a grander scheme. So it's like Thanos had already died, Gamora was already with them, Rocket and Groot, like they were already a formed team in this game, which was a good choice by them.
But also Gamora and Drax are relatively new. And it's kind of established that Star-Lord, Groot, and Rocket started the group.
And then so the big catalyst of this game, like the big kind of prelude, is that there was this gigantic galactic war, which I thought they were going to make it the Annihilation Wave, but I'm glad they didn't, because I have my theory for the next game that I want them to do the Annihilation Wave, because if this was a precursor to it, the destruction of this universe going on like in the middle of the game, but it was an interesting way they did it, because it felt like something that easily could have been passed up for just having like a Thanos be your main villain, versus it was like this big conceptual thing that was happening that it makes sense. Like, no, even the Guardians, a team, like they really can't solve it, but they find a way to do it. Obviously I haven't finished it, but that's kind of what it feels like. Like it feels like there's no win. That's what I love when stories give you that no win feeling. It's not like a discreditable no win feeling. Like, I'm trying to think of a good one. I mean, maybe Batman vs Superman with Doomsday at the end. We obviously knew, I mean, Superman died, so that's maybe not the best example, but maybe the Avengers. We knew that they were going to save the day. Like, this one, at this point in the game, it feels like, it does not feel good. Like, it feels really dark and ominous of what's going on.
It does the smart thing where you kind of revisit the main antagonist kind of halfway through the game, and he kind of, like, smacks you aside.
Yeah, he does.
And, like, I love when games do that. I think Arkham City does that really well.
Yeah, it does, and especially with Ra's al Ghul specific, like especially it's psychological warfare that he uses against him too. So and I love the way that Arkham City's built, because you have the main level story, and then you go underground, and then like the story, it doesn't completely change, but like the myths, because Batman's delved in the detective nature, so like that all gets thrown out. Like it's all the best aspects, and same thing with the Spider-Man game. It has the crime aspect, it has the mystical aspect with the League of Assassins, and it has like the Rogues Gallery aspect of it, which this game also does.
You know what I loved about this game? I love the Spider-Man games and I love the Batman games. It's just so linear.
Yeah, it is.
And there's not a lot of nonsense. And like a lot of like collectibles and like chicanery.
No.
There's no side quests.
Yeah, and I understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, Batman and Spider-Man make more sense because they're in cities that we know, so it would make more sense that it's linear, because that was another not big issue. It was like, it's a double-sided coin for Fallen Order. Like, it's a good thing because you get to explore, but it's also, what am I exploring for after I beat the game?
Yeah.
So like Batman and Spider-Man make sense because I can beat people up after I finish the game and kind of do these different side quests as well. But Fallen Order, you didn't really get that. But this game, the linear nature of it kind of it makes the galaxy bigger, but it still doesn't make it feel too
Everything
overwhelming.
looks great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially from that opening mission they go on.
It's a gorgeous looking game.
Right.
The colors, everything pops. But yeah, it really surprised me.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else to say about it.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about basically anything that you guys can think of from the cosmic side of the Marvel Universe. This will show you in some form or fashion.
Because I was texting you, I was like, I can't believe they actually did this. And there was characters getting, you know what's my favorite Easter egg things they do? The interface of that game is also interesting. Like, it's not like other games where like you get to fly for a second and then it's over. Like, it's just interesting ways of like you get to control panels and screens in it. Like, you get to do these different things, which the Spider-Man game is probably culprit number one of having, you're either swinging through the city beating people up or you're solving puzzles. Those are the only two alternatives.
The world feels lived in.
Yeah, it does.
In this game.
It really does.
It's characters show up and they don't handhold you.
No, they don't.
They're like, here's this character, and they have a rapport with the Guardians already, and you're like, cool. And they're like, here's this character, surprise. But we're not going to really talk about who that character is. They're just here now.
Right.
Like, Mantis is a great example.
Yeah.
Mantis just
shows up out of nowhere.
You're like, cool, Mantis is in this now, I guess.
And it's good because you have those preconceived... It gives you the background, like, it doesn't completely divulge of what we got in the movie, but it does add the added layer of her being, like, this interdimensional being that's perceiving all these dimensions at once. So, great job by Square Enix and from the developers of this game.
I think this game is going to eventually get a sequel of some sort.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The word of mouth has been incredibly strong. A lot of people are gravitating to this. A lot of people that I watch like on Twitch and YouTube are like, yeah, I'll check this out. And then they get like 2 hours in and they're like, holy crap, like this game is amazing.
Right.
Which is the best kind of thing for a video game in particular, is when that word of mouth is so strong, because it just starts circulating.
Right.
And people are like, I'm going to check it out. Now I'm going to check it out. And then lo and behold, you have this massive thing.
Yeah.
So
yep.
I think that's where I think it's right up there with Spider-Man PS4. It's right up there with the Batman Arkham games. Probably not mechanically. I mean, it doesn't do anything groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But as far as characters and story, it's right up there. I love the alternate kind of paths.
Oh yeah, that's the other big thing that we didn't talk about. And I don't think we knew until I did something different from what you did, and then we were like, oh, so this game is kind of like Infamous in that way where it switches. So there's an early mission in the game where you fight this villain, or you don't fight her yet. You need to make a choice if you're going to sell Rocket or Groot, because
I think this was a demo. Portion, or was shown off, maybe.
Oh,
so
okay.
This isn't really a spoiler. But yeah, you make a choice to sell Rocket or Groot, and I chose Groot, you chose Rocket.
I didn't know you can choose, because I thought what was going to happen was like most games, like I would say Rocket, but then it would still just revert back to Groot.
It's kind of like the Telltale game, sort of, where like you do all these dialogue-y things and like you make different dialogue choices and have different conversations, but at the end of the day, it ends the same way.
Yeah, this game
does not do that.
This game, they made different versions of pretty much a lot of things in this game that I wasn't expecting.
In some cases.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I went to the Collector's Emporium because of a choice that I made. But there's a choice that you made where you went right into the Collector's Emporium. Did you pay off your fine or no?
I did.
I didn't. See?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't pay off the fine. We'll talk about, because I don't want to get into spoilers too much. We'll talk about after what the difference was. But yeah, just that Rocket and Groot one, it was a fun one because the fight was completely different because I sold Rocket versus because you sold Groot. So that's a really strong thing. And it just added another layer to this game of the replayability too.
Yeah. Like replayability is great too. Like, I'm looking forward to diving into it again and doing different choices just to see how it plays out. But yeah, this game's amazing. I can't recommend it enough for people if you're a gamer, whether it's on previous gen, PS4, Xbox One X, it's on all those systems, it's on next gen. So play it. Yeah. Play it. This is immediate. I would buy it. I would play it.
You know what else I would buy and what else is amazing? The first Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. We're going to segue kind of into a mini quasi-retrospective on the first Guardians movie, because I think it's a great jumping point to jump from this to that or that to this.
Yeah.
Because you kind of get a good foundation, but you also deviate.
Yeah.
Between the characterizations and story.
Right. This game was really made. It's a lot of fun for new players. It's a lot of fun for people that like comics, and it's a lot of fun for hardcore gamers too. Like this game's for everybody.
Yeah.
And much like the Guardians movie, I know I always say it with these big outlandish kind of things, and I said it on Dune, like the one thing that like sci-fi and big action needs to have is heart at the core, and Guardians of the Galaxy was the first time in the Marvel universe, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where I felt a different emotion, because I was getting and I guess that's the big gripe with the MCU, I was getting a similar emotion from each movie, and then we started out the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, and you just get this different feeling, and I mean, it's kind of visually, as soon as the light hits him when he's being abducted by Yondu, you just kind of get this different feeling that this is going to be something I've never seen before up until this point.
Segue immediately into that opening action sequence with Star-Lord.
Amazing. And I mean, that's the power that's the power of music. But just some preliminaries. I mean, the background of this movie.
2014.
Yeah.
Time shift to a different time.
Yeah, Mantis probably thought about it already. But yeah, so it's about, let's just say it's end of 2012, beginning of 2013. We're getting a Guardians movie.
Marvel to this point is undefeated.
Yeah, so they came off the gigantic success of the Avengers.
They pulled it off.
They
did what people didn't think they could do. They took these different characters from these different movies and they smashed them into one movie. Mission accomplished, right? But then you get the big Thanos teaser at the end of the Avengers, and we're like, oh, yeah, wait a second here. We're not done. And then after that, it's funny because you go to Iron Man 3.
Yeah, and the big thing about Iron Man 3 and for the universe is Disney, this is the biggest thing. So Disney now owns the rights to all these characters, and this is now a Disney production for all the movies outside of Spider-Man and years later.
Which it's not even on the radar at this point.
Because at this time, Andrew Garfield's playing Spider-Man at this time, so it doesn't even matter.
So you get Iron Man 3.
It's all right. I like Iron Man 3 a little bit more in retrospect, and I don't like Iron Man 2 as much because I rewatched them a little while ago.
So you get Iron Man 3, nah. You get Thor: The Dark World, nah.
That's smart. Oh yeah, it's all right.
Then you get Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Really, really good.
Yes, one of the best action movies they've ever done. I believe in the top 3 movies that they've done personally. So
yeah, you come off that, which is great. Yeah. And then all in the meanwhile, this Guardians of the Galaxy movie has been announced.
Yeah,
and everyone, much like Korath in the beginning of Guardians, you go, who?
Yeah. And I, at the time, would like to think I was solidly knowledgeable, not as knowledgeable now, but I knew some. Yeah, I knew a couple, but even so, I was the only character that I had kind of known was Drax Moore. He was the one that I kind of knew more just because of Annihilation, and it wasn't any gigantic characters. I mean, Rocket and Groot were pretty unknown. Star-Lord was kind of on the coattails, but nothing insane. But
it's not Captain America. No, it's not Iron Man. It's who?
Star-Lord, Groot.
Like, what is this?
Rocket Raccoon.
Did Marvel just have a bunch of comic books posted up on a dartboard and they were just like,
let's see what we're gonna do. And the first trailer for this movie came out,
and I was like, ooh,
yeah,
oh boy.
It was the intrigue. This is different because even as much as I love Captain America: Winter Soldier, it is a pretty standard Marvel movie. Like there's nothing outside. It's just the way the Russo brothers stepped on, and the difference they made was there was so much attention to detail in the action that they did.
Incredible story, incredible action sequences. Yeah. This was, you could just tell based on the first trailer, you were like, oh, this is going to be really charming.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And you kind of feel, like I said, you feel that heart immediately out of the gate. And you kind of, this is our first introduction to Marvel Cosmic in this universe too, because we got a little bit, Thor really doesn't even have the Marvel Cosmic aspect. He kind of has like the mythology aspect of it more, and then
it's very self-contained.
Yeah, it is extremely self-contained. And Chris Pratt as Star-Lord is just, he's lovable right out of the gate.
Go back to that first action sequence with him, where he's just by himself.
Yeah, he is.
And he's just dancing.
Yeah, and he's not perfect. He's not like Captain America perfect. He's struggling to get out of the action sequences. Like, he's flying his ship. The ship almost gets broken in half, and it's just, he's a ladies' man right there. Like, he has an alien on the ship that he didn't even know was there. But it's the music. It's immediately the music that kind of enthralls you, and it's the world that James Gunn creates too, of this Marvel cosmic aspect of these big kind of giant planetary, like, set pieces going on at the same time. It's just something you never seen before from a Marvel movie, because everything had taken place either on Earth or on Asgard. You hadn't seen anything that was, because Thor 1 was very much Vikings in space. That was really what Thor 1 was, and Thor 2 was just boring. So yeah, we get to Guardians, and it's just this enthralling experience from the beginning. And I mean, huge credit to James Gunn. It feels like the least that the Marvel studio heads had touched the film. You kind of get that feeling that he kind of did what he wanted to do for the most part.
Because it didn't really have anything to do with anything else other than this is the first appearance of Josh Brolin as Thanos.
Yeah, and it's also no expectation too. That was also a huge win for them. Is I don't need to adhere to anything. I can kind of have fun a little bit with these characters and kind of make them my own, because we all know what Captain America's about. We all know what Thor's about. We all know what Iron Man's about, but we really didn't know who was Star-Lord, because there's different iterations of there's Star-Lords that are much more serious, and then there's Star-Lords like this. I mean, Gamora, Nebula, like there's different versions of all these people, so I'm kind of glad what we got. I mean, the cast all around. Zoe Saldana as Gamora, amazing.
Zoe Saldana just absolutely killing it as just anything that's not her natural appearance.
Right. And I mean, there's a reason she has the moniker the deadliest woman in the galaxy. Drax, Dave Bautista, like I said, the revitalization of somebody's career, that's making him a household name.
Probably steals the show in that first Guardians movie.
Yeah. Bradley Cooper. So you're getting a huge, like a massive actor from Hollywood to kind of play this. I wonder what the pitch was to get. I mean, you know what? I take that back. Bradley Cooper seems like a very fun guy.
You're like, hey, we're going to cast one of the most handsome guys in Hollywood, but he's going to be a voice actor for a raccoon.
Right. Yeah. So there's a level of trust that Marvel definitely had with him. You get Chris Pratt to get in immaculate shape to play Star-Lord, because it's in every Chris's contract that you have to go shirtless in your own movie.
In your first movie?
And then the biggest casting of all of this is our boy Vin Diesel saying I am Groot 75 times.
And in a variety of languages.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Vin Diesel did all the dubbing.
Yeah, he did.
For Groot.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. But yeah, we get that first action set piece, and then it doesn't feel like those other Marvel movies. Like, obviously, the pacing was pretty solid, but it's that musical chord mixed with that emotion from everybody. Like, Drax being somebody that lost his family, that's in the kiln at this point, just making sure I'm going to stop at nothing. I'm going to kill Thanos. Like, there's nothing that's going to stop my path. Gamora feeling guilty about what she's done. You feel all these things. And then, I mean, just at the core of Star-Lord himself, being this kid that was abducted and had to kind of adapt to this alien lifestyle and making it his own. He's not going to sacrifice kind of his like heritage and his culture, like his Earth culture per se.
And also like wanting to be Han Solo, but he's not quite as capable, but still somewhat capable.
Yeah. I mean, the guns help, the helmet helps, the jet boosters help, but yeah, he's very admirable later on in the movie, not at first, but that's what the family aspect builds, and that's a big part of that movie. This
movie did, and the game also does this, is all these other characters have these ridiculous capabilities and these ridiculous powers. Star-Lord's superpower is him being able to relate to everybody.
Yeah.
That's his superpower.
Right.
You know what I mean? He can rally the troops. He can really break down what makes these aliens in an alien universe, what makes them human,
right,
quote unquote. And that's his superpower, is being able to attach his heart to his team.
Yeah, right. No, and it works really well. I mean, one of my, and then just for me personally, just the way this film is shot too, some of the shots that they were pulling on, like I said, we'd never seen anything from the Marvel movies. Like, I always like when people pull screenshots from movies to kind of show off like how good this looks. Dune's been the pretty recent one doing that, but this movie has so many beautiful frames. I mean, when Gamora and Peter are on the kind of the ledge on nowhere with kind of like the nebula in the background, just amazing. Her kind of
nebula in the background,
not Karen Gillan. We have the other one where Gamora is floating in space with the Star-Lord helmet, which is a homage to her being Star-Lord for a little bit in the later comics too. You just get so many beautiful shots in this movie too. I mean, the music also in this movie is really good. Not just the music from the score itself is really good. It's a really triumphant score, and it kind of fits like this dysfunctional family that needs to rise up to something greater too. And they earn the moniker of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, they're just this weird type of kind of friends at the time, because they're not. The family really comes in the Guardians too, is where they really formulate into a family. But
yeah, this is kind of like, not the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but it's similar to that. It's hey man, like, Ronan's bad dude. and Thanos is out there, we might as well just team up.
Yeah.
We're all criminals.
Yeah, we all either have ties to Ronan or Thanos, so let's do something about it. Right. And they present it in such a great way. Everybody's really endearing at all times. There's not a character that really gets left behind. I mean, even Michael Rooker as Yondu kills it. It's just everybody is likable to an aspect of you're looking at all these alien, like these humanoid or alien characters, and you're latching on. I mean, Groot is probably the number one of there's no words he says outside of I am Groot and then we. That's it. And somehow
that's one of the most touching parts of the whole movie.
Oh my gosh,
is when he says we are Groot.
Yeah, the emotional core of this movie is phenomenal.
Yeah, and you talk about the score. To this day, for me, one of the most like chill-inducing sequences in that movie is when they all have the Infinity Stone.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And Star-Lord goes, "You said it yourself, bitch," with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that score kicks in.
Yeah.
It's one of the best moments in any Marvel movie.
Yeah, there's a really good hero moment as well when they're breaking out of the kiln, and like the music kind of crests for a second, and Gamora says you turned all the gravity outside except for in here, and then the score kind of booms and it just turns into the hero moment of them forming as the Guardians for the first time. And I'm just like, yeah, that you kind of feel that formation of this new team that we can all kind of relate to, and we all have characters we can bounce off of as well.
Yeah, I mean, the only knock I really have on it is forgettable villain.
Yeah,
which is pretty apropos for most of the MCU movies, if we're being honest, is the villains are pretty forgettable, but boy, does it have some foreboding about it when it comes to Brolin and Thanos. Yeah. I mean, even Lee Pace as Ronan he's still solid. I like him more than other villains that they've had in this universe. I just wish they would have gave him a little bit of extra layer of something, because he is just very much, even if it was just the way that the Kree are, that's just, he can't, like Peacemaker, I can't help but my nature. They kind of teased at it a little bit, but they didn't really give you the full out nature of it. Like, I kind of don't really relate to Ronan in any aspect. He just feels like a warmonger that just wants to kill people. That's all it feels like. Yeah, and it, obviously I like the introduction of Thanos, but you get the feeling like watching Ronan, like, you're not the real villain. No, you're not, yeah. Yeah, like, you could be taken out. Like, they're gonna find a way to take you out. Yeah, because the other guy in the big floating chair, that's the villain. Yeah, you got a floating chair, you're probably the villain. Yeah. So, no, amazing film. I'm so glad, like, this film is like super inspirational for a lot of people, including myself too, just to create. Like, it's a nice, inside of this big Marvel machine that we get, specifically this one, it just gives you all, it invokes this feeling that's just so much different, and just so much, it's just something I can really like hold on to and just think about the shots from this and the music from this, and kind of just how somebody would just create something new, even though it's something that it's pulled from, it's just something new. It's so strange, the parallel I draw between this and the game. Mm-hmm. And so far as I left the game when I finished it feeling with little to no expectations, and finishing that game and being like, this is one of the best games I've played in the last couple of years, and walking out of that first Guardians movie with little to no expectations, and walking out of it going, that might have been one of the best movies I've seen in the last 5 years. It was the same exact feeling, and I don't know whether it's those characters and the way they're portrayed in these two particular mediums are so endearing. I don't know what it is. It's something about that group of characters. There's something about bringing small scale characters that don't have a lot of expectation, like he did with the Suicide. Maybe it's James Gunn himself, but the game still does it really well. But just bringing those small scale characters and just kind of giving them some heart and giving them some emotion and making them real. And I'm a sucker for just a good kind of like family dynamic, you know what I mean, that you don't really get in any of these other Marvel movies. And there's something inherently human about this group in particular in this first movie that, I mean, not to say that the other MCU characters aren't three-dimensional, they are, but there's something super heroic about Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. Yeah, but they're built that Bruce way. Bruce Banner and Thor. The Guardians, even though some of them have powers and enhancements, there's something just inherently normal about them. Yeah, there is. And I think it comes from Tony Stark's a billionaire on top of him having an iron suit. Captain America is this inherently good person. That's the best guy. Yeah, is the best guy. That's something. Bruce Banner is probably the most relatable out of all of them. But even him, he's a super genius.
Yeah, he's a super
and he's
genius.
An unstoppable monster.
Right. Natasha is this trained assassin. Clint's this trained assassin.
Thor is the Prince of Asgard.
Right. He's a god.
Star-Lord is just some kid, some bum from Missouri.
Yeah, he's just some kid from the Midwest that got abducted, and that's it. Like
and it's character based. It's a group of characters that are misfits, outcasts, and broken things.
Yeah, even Gamora, she was kidnapped as a child. Rocket was experimented. Things were done to him.
Groot's the last of his race.
Yeah, Groot's the last of his race, and Drax lost his wife and his daughter. That's it. That's all you need to know. But it just adds an added layer that you don't get from those other characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then this like we said, this much like this game does, takes off into the zeitgeist, and these are instantly some of the most popular characters in the entire MCU, to the point where there's this just anticipation about them.
Right, when Infinity War, when the trailer came out, like when the Guardians showed up, people were freaking out just at the prospect of both those groups colliding with each other. So,
and that's one of my favorite things that the MCU does is we talked up top before we started talking about the movie that we thought the Avengers was impossible.
Yeah.
And then Infinity War happens, and it does the Avengers, but times 20.
Right.
And no better moment than when those worlds collide.
Yeah.
And you see the Guardians interacting with the Avengers, and you're like, this is freaking surreal, man.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, in terms of the contrast between these, I mean, the power levels are definitely different. The game feels much more it feels much more comic booky, but it also works in terms of world building. And like I said from the beginning, it just gave me that same conceptual feeling that I got from the last episode of Loki when the branching timelines started going. Like, they were pulling off some crazy things in this game that even the movies, I don't know if they'll go. I mean, obviously Loki, but I'm talking specifically the Guardians movies. I don't know if they'll ever go that far as they did, but you find a lot of that stuff in the Cosmic Marvel comics too. So they did an amazing job of that.
Of insane stuff.
And also a little thing, I love when you change your suit and it gives you the comic origin of that suit. That's also a pretty cool thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just a little nod that I'm glad they put that in there. That was just a little thing that made me happy.
It's a game that made, much like the movie was, it was a game that was made with incredible care.
Yeah. It's always something about when you handle something with passion. I mean, that's my biggest thing about Dune is like, once something that's that big and already lived in,
to Dune,
you thought I was gonna come on. And also Fast and Furious.
We reviewed it already. It's over. It's in the past.
Not for me.
Let the past die.
Nope. Don't pull the Kylo Ren on me. But yeah, when you handle something that's already been used, but you handle it with passion and care, you can't help but produce something well.
Yeah, in a way that kind of what was the jumping off point when we first started this conversation, in a way that I never felt the Avengers game was handled. It felt very money grabby.
Yeah.
To this day, exactly. It still feels that.
Yep.
I think I told you when I first started playing, I'm like, you have the MCU suits are in this Guardians game, and you're not paying for them.
No.
You just find them through exploration. Right. Where in the MCU, the MCU game, the Avengers game, you're paying probably like $20 to get like a Iron Man 1 skin. Yeah. And it's apples and oranges. Night and day.
If game developers are listening, stop doing microtransactions. Just let us play to get stuff.
Yeah. If I have to pay for a DLC episode or an expansion,
that's
whatever.
Different, yeah.
But I shouldn't have to pay for costumes.
Yeah.
Unless it's Fortnite.
You still play Fortnite?
No.
Me neither. I barely played Fortnite when it came out.
But I'm just saying, like, that's fine, whatever. Like, you want to play as Venom in a Fortnite, fine. You can pay for that.
Right.
But, like, I shouldn't have to pay for that in my Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Single player game.
Yeah. And so, yeah, both these things. Guardians of the Galaxy, good IP.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Great IP.
Who knew in 2012?
Yeah. Even some of the newer comics are really good because I'm pretty sure, who is it? It's like Silver Surfer's there now. I mean, Ghost Rider's there. They got some cool
Ghost
things.
Rider's there now.
They got some cool things going on. I love Silver Surfer. Maybe we'll talk about Silver Surfer Black because I think it's always when comics kind of go outside of like the stupidity of like or the craziness and really like jump down to like the core of like Norrin Rad being the last of his race and like that he was really being used by this Titan to kind of bid his will and he had no kind of preconceived notions about himself, like he couldn't be himself for all these years and how it affected him.
Yeah.
Those always work.
Yeah.
Spider-Man life story, it worked for that same reason of you see this kid kind of have to protect the city, what he doesn't really need to, but with great power it comes great responsibility. Sorry. I said it before the MCU said it.
True. Well, we are going to see the Guardians again. There's a Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special coming up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
In which James Gunn has teased the most ridiculous or absurd MCU character introduced to date. Is apparently what he's going to bring to this holiday special.
I don't even know who that could be, but... I'm
dying on this hill that it's going to be Mutant Santa Claus.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. You mean the one with the sword? Yeah. Yes. I would love that. I'm dying on that hill. It's a holiday special. Santa Claus is a confirmed Omega level mutant in the Marvel Universe. Yep. Just do it. Yeah.
Just do it, James Gunn.
Absolutely amazing.
And then we have Guardians 3.
Yeah. I mean, Will Poulter being cast as Adam Warlock, that's a big character that they were holding on to. I mean, you're talking about newer characters. A character that was teased in this game is Nova. And that's like, that was the one for me because I texted you, is there a certain character in this game I'm going to freak out? And I think you thought I was talking about Adam Warlock, but I was talking about Richard Rider because, especially, like I said, after reading Annihilation, like, that's a massive character that really, really helped him gain some popularity after that comic came out too. So I want to... I think the MCU is going to make sure the reason they didn't put him in the Guardians is because they wanted to make him his own main character. That makes sense that they would do that.
By the time we get to Guardians 3, maybe this is where they pass the buck to the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, as the new family, because it's like we already got the groundwork. We got kind of like the groundwork of what the family should be. It should be dysfunctional. Now we're getting the actual first family.
The Guardians of the Galaxy, like, to make that comp, the Guardians of the Galaxy are like what the Avengers were, but to space.
Yeah.
Like, the Guardians of the Galaxy in the MCU, this is the original crew. And there comes a point where, much like Avengers Endgame was the passing the torch from the old crew to the new crew.
Yeah.
I think Guardians 3 is going to be very much the same. I don't know if we're going to get a Fantastic Four tease at the end of this Guardians movie. It'd be cool, but I mean, it makes sense.
Maybe not even for the fan. Maybe it's Galactus himself. Maybe it's somebody like that. That immediately the trigger goes off of your brain that, oh shoot, the Fantastic Four are gonna need to deal with this at some point. So
yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, man,
great IP,
yeah,
amazing.
Who knew? Like who
knew?
Who knew that we'd get great Guardians of the Galaxy movies and a great Guardians of the Galaxy game?
Yeah.
Which I never expected in 100 years. I did not think I'd be playing a compelling Guardians of the Galaxy video game. God, yeah. Just Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, they show up in Marvel vs. Capcom games. They show up in Marvel Ultimate Alliance. But that's greater Marvel Universe and other stuff. But just to have a game just about them, I couldn't be more impressed and blown away by it. But I think other than that, I think that's going to do it for us this week.
Yeah, I don't got anything after that. Like you said, I really love this Guardians game. I'm going to finish it. Don't worry.
More stuff. More Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
More Marvel video games.
Well, you need more of that. Give me a Daredevil game. You know how I feel about Daredevil.
Give me anything. Yeah. I'm down for whatever, man.
So that Wolverine tease really...
I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Insomniac just pulling overtime.
Yeah.
Giving us a Spider-Man 2 sequel and a Wolverine game.
Yeah.
Within the next 2 or 3 years. We mentioned last week the Uncharted lead developer is developing some single-player Marvel game. Just keep doing that. Throw Avengers in the bin and keep doing these. Keep doing single-player stories with compelling stories, compelling characters, and I'll buy every single one of them.
Yeah, so we got Eternals coming up next week.
Oof.
This is going to be an interesting review. It's definitely going to be an interesting one because I can feel that a lot of people from the theater, even regardless if they looked at the Rotten Tomatoes, might not love this right out of the gate. But like I said, try to formulate your own opinion and have an open mind. I feel like that's also more important because you can formulate your own opinion, but if your preconceived notion is that I'm not going to like this because of something else, to have some fun. Just have a little bit of fun. Fun goes a long way.
That's what I'm trying to do now. Like you mentioned to me the other day, you're like, did you see this thing for Spider-Man? I'm like, no.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have the both of us, because you're the guy that's going to go in fresh. We need somebody that knows about all the leaks and somebody that's completely fresh.
Like, I don't want to see anything.
Yeah. I want to see everything. So that's
I'll watch a trailer, but I don't need to see anything other than that.
Well, this is why this works.
I don't need to see who was on set. I don't need to see who was wearing this and wearing
I need
what.
to. It makes me sleep. It helps me sleep.
Keep it away from me.
Yeah. Except for it's more Alfred Molina stuff. I'll take that.
Unless it's Final Fantasy related.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Then give me all the news.
You'd do anything for Final Fantasy.
Man, every day I wake up and I put Final Fantasy VII Remake in Google just to see if there's anything new coming.
You know what you do when you wake up? You look up and you look at Cloud Strife. That's what you do when you wake up. Because he's on the ceiling again.
So other than that, I don't want to see anything other than that. Other than that, you're good. I'm a sucker for spoilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, next week, Eternals. It feels like this whole podcast thing is moving at a clip.
Yeah.
It feels like it wasn't even that long ago. We were like, hey, how about that Eternals trailer?
Right. I mean, it doesn't even feel that long ago, whereas the first Spider-Man trailer, the first Eternals trailer. Dune, yeah, Dune was leaps and bounds away.
And now we've been at this damn near 3 months.
Yeah, 15 weeks.
More than 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's time work?
4 weeks in a month, generally.
Yeah. You could call me the mantis of the podcast because I don't know how time works now.
So, yeah. That's going to do it. And now I'm going to plug stuff. So follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can email us at the projectinfinitepod@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram at
the Project Infinite Pod.
Correct.
I don't miss.
He doesn't miss. Not ever since like the third or fourth episode. You really reined it in since
I'm like
then.
Bullseye.
You're undefeated in plugging the Instagram handle. So follow us on there. That's it. That's everything.
You watch anything recently?
Did I?
You had to have watched something.
I don't know if I did. I feel like I did, but I can't remember what it was now.
Nothing?
I watched the new Halloween movie.
How'd you like it?
It was alright.
Okay.
It was Michael Myers, and the town is like, we're sick of you, Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an interesting concept for a slasher film.
Can I get my theory? That movie's a comedy. That movie's not a horror movie. It's a comedy.
I mean, it's a horror movie.
It's a comedy. We'll agree to disagree.
I do enjoy that concept where the town's like, you know what?
Yeah.
We're sick of this.
Yeah. Like, you guys can't stop one man with a knife, but
we're done being victims here.
Yeah.
We're going to do the slashing.
Yeah.
Spoiler, they don't.
Yeah, they don't. Trust me, they don't. I watched, like I said, I watched a Chloe Zhao movie to kind of get ready. I watched Songs My Brothers Taught Me, and I really love the way she directs. I mean, people were Nomadland, obviously, she won Best Director for that, and that's undeniable. I mean, the narrative of Nomadland, it's in the realism of it, and that's what I kind of am feeling for Eternals, is we're going to get that realism bit. It's going to feel more real than a guy in a flying metal suit and a god from space that has a magical hammer, somehow with a guy that has laser beams and eyes and can fly, but it just, the way that
she's Superman?
It's not Superman. Nice try, Marvel. Couldn't do it. But the way she directs it's amazing. But this film's about these kids on this reservation. I believe it's in Texas, I want to say, and it's just about this kid, and he's 17, and you find out his father he's not the greatest man in the world. He had a lot of kids with a lot of different women, so there's a lot of like half siblings on the same reservation, and on this reservation there's no alcohol allowed, but they still sneak alcohol in, and it's just the narrative itself, it's so real because that's the way that she kind of shoots. It's the whole thing is supposed to be a not documentary, if it makes sense. Like it's not like there's no interviews, but it's shot in a way to feel like it's real world things that are happening, which it is. It's real world problems, but it's just her narrative sense is extremely real, extremely raw. That's my biggest compliment, is how raw this film feels, and it just invokes that emotion of relatability. Like I feel for every single person. Like he has a little sister, and you kind of feel her starting to slip, and that's why the movie's called Songs My Brothers Taught Me, because you can tell he doesn't want her to do the same things that he's been doing, but she does because he can't help it. Their mother's an alcoholic, and she's trying to get better. Their older brother's in jail, but it's just this really beautiful tale of kind of the realism that we face, that some filmmakers choose to kind of, perpetuate into these films. And I think her taking inspiration from Terrence Malick, one of the most classic directors in Hollywood, just really helps. So I kind of hope she just lays more of that into the Eternals as well. That's cool. That's my indie movie pick that I usually try to. And
how many times have you watched Dune?
Do we need to do this? All right, it's been an obscene amount of times. Okay, so it's not my fault because I forget. I think it was Black Panther. I had seen it with like different people every time, so it wasn't my fault that I saw that movie 4 times. It was because different people hadn't seen it yet, and I'm like, I'll go with you to see it, and it happened. Dune, I can't say the same thing because I watched it at home a couple times. So we watched it in the theater, and then I watched it the next day in the morning so we can review it. And then I watched it again on the Sunday because I was off. And then I saw it with some family members on 2 different occasions. So I've seen the movie roughly 5 times now.
Oh, man. That's so good. I enjoy that story a lot.
Yeah, I love that movie so much. It's a movie that I can't get this movie out of my head. And I just think it's because of the passion that Denis Villeneuve brings. I can't get the movie out of my head.
The Drax the Destroyer of the podcast,
I didn't think that's where that was going, but I'll take it. Is it because I'm super literal?
It's that, and you're just really dedicated to this one thing.
Yeah. Dune.
Dune. Dune the Destroyer.
Yeah, Dune the Destroyer.
All right, guys, we will see you next week, or you will hear us next week.
Yes.
Regarding the Eternals, full review, yada yada. You've heard us do a couple of these by now, so you kind of know how they're going to go.
Yep.
But until then, goodbye.
Eternals assemble.
Oh, man, I can't believe that's actually in the movie. All right, guys. Goodbye.